Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our Chaos Crew play-along. It's been a minute since I've given you a Let's Play, so you haven't had an opportunity to see this entire planetoid. Well, let's get to it. As I'm sure many of you have seen, we've tamed all the metal volcanoes on this planetoid. We did an entire tutorial on different types of metal tamers, and I'll put a link both in the corner and down in the video description just in case you haven't. But what this has done for us is enabled us to start running plug slugs. And boy are we. This ranch can hold a maximum of 6 critters. And the reason why it was 6 is because I have enough room in this spot for 6 plug slugs to hang. Now there's a couple features to this stable that I think you're gonna like. First is that we have a carbon dioxide lock here, which prevents any of the hydrogen from somehow skipping down and heading outside the ranch. Instead, the hydrogen only goes up through these mesh tiles and then collects in this room here, where we have a little bit of automation. Both of these gas element sensors are looking for hydrogen. When they both have been sitting in hydrogen for more than 60 seconds, a green signal is sent to this gas pump. And basically what this allows us to do is ensure that the gas pump is only getting hydrogen and not any of the oxygen here. As you can see, we're producing a lot of power. Right now, there's only 5 critters in here instead of the 6, but the 5 give us 8,000 watts per second, and the 6 would give us 9,600 watts per second. We're just waiting for one of these slug eggs to hatch, and it looks like this one's next at 92%. We have an auto sweeper in here that was strategically placed for a couple of reasons. First, it's able to hit every platform to ensure that any slug eggs that are laid are gobbled up and thrown in this conveyor loader. You also notice that it has access to a critter feeder up here, so it can transfer any metal from this conveyor receptacle so the slug plugs can eat. I specifically put it here, that way whenever the slug plugs eat, this is the area where they give off their hydrogen gas. And since the hydrogen starts up here, A, it's a closer route to climb up to the ceiling, and B, there's less of a chance of it coming down here and eventually making its way outside the colony. Now this stable is 96 tiles, so it could have held 8 critters. So there was no point for me to put a critter condo in here other than the fact that, well, I like critter condos. I mean, look how happy that slug plug is. Or plug slug. There's always people in the comments reminding me that I often say slug plug and plug slug interchangeably. Am I doing it on purpose to increase viewer engagement? Or do I just flip words around like that all the time? The world shall never know. All those plug slug eggs are being dropped off into this room. First, so that we can collect them and this auto sweeper can put them in the incubators. But second, you can't drown a plug slug. So dropping them off in our evolution chamber would do nothing. I suppose you could put them in there, and then they would just be trapped in one tile, but then we wouldn't have the convenience of having this auto sweeper being able to load the incubators. We could also have it throw in all the additional eggs, just making sure the incubators have a higher priority. But this isn't a big deal either way, because all these plug slugs eventually die as well, and then they will drop their meat, and once they do, this conveyor loader, which is set to pick up meat and eggshells, makes the long trip all the way over to the main part of our base and our kitchen. Next up on the critter front is we've put in a nice poke shell farm. I'm pretty sure you guys haven't seen this poke shell farm, but just in case, there's a lot of nice features here as well. You may remember that I was having some steel issues. Well, it wasn't necessarily steel issues, it was the fact that we didn't have enough lime. Now we're up to almost 100 tons of steel, and that's after spending quite a bit. And a lot of that is thanks to the poke shells. Now the stable itself has a couple of unique features that you may not be aware of. Rest assured, it is 96 tiles, so we can hold 8 critters. And that's important because the more poke shells we have in here, the more eggs they lay, which means the more babies can hatch, which is both a small molt once they turn into an adult and then a large molt once they die. I have several deodorizers down here because all the duplicants are dropping off all the polluted dirt on the colony into the ranch. That's what the poke shells are eating. So not only does that present a wonderful way to dispose of all of our polluted dirt, it also gives us a lot of sand. I also have an automatic dispenser here set on sweep only, just in case I'm ever walking around the colony and want to sweep up some of the polluted dirt from the water sieve or some from the ethanol distillery. I have these 2 tiles here to ensure that the polluted oxygen will never make it past here without getting gobbled up by these deodorizers. Plus, it gives us a nice source of clay as well. The next feature of the Pokeshell Ranch is our incubation area. Now this is set up this way to ensure the safety of our duplicants, because as you may remember, duplicant safety is our #1 priority here at Echo Ridge Gaming. All of the eggs in this stable are dropped off in this area here. This auto sweeper can see through this door and grab the eggs whenever we need to put them inside the incubators. Now even though the ranch is full, and this Pokeshell will eventually just pop out once it becomes an adult, we will then have a live adult Pokeshell in here. Which you may be thinking, the Pokeshell is going to get very angry because there's an egg in the area. Except they won't. Pinch row eggs inside of incubators do not make the adult Pokeshells mad. Hence the reason there's a door here, blocking these Pokeshells from the eggs, but also making sure all of our excess Pokeshells, who will incidentally be angry, can't come out through here where there's a chance a duplicant's gonna come. The duplicants come quite often over here because as a Pokeshell molt falls, they want to grab it and bring it over to the rock crusher to make us more lime. And what's great about this system is we now have an infinite source of lime and iron, which means as long as I can keep making refined carbon, that is set to automation to ensure this smart storage bin always has a ton of it in there, we'll have an infinite source of steel. Now in this case, I don't have a renewable source of coal on the planetoid, but I do have 103 tons worth of coal ready to be converted into refined carbon. And considering it only takes 20 kilos of refined carbon for every batch of steel, I have enough coal reserves for 5,150 batches, which is going to give me roughly 515 tons worth of steel. Not to mention there's still a lot of it sitting on our second planetoid, and we have a duplicant over there slowly starting to tear all this down. More on that in a little bit. With a couple of our Pokeshells grown up, I can highlight where it is safety and where it is not. Exhibit A, mean Pokeshells. Exhibit B, friendly Pokeshell. The only thing that I need to do to make this system just a little bit better is add some shipping. As it stands right now, all the duplicants are coming to grab all the Pokeshell molds, which increases the chance that a duplicant will get injured in this little ranch. And it's a small off case, and it's only happened once in a few hundred cycles, but basically, we have these incubators set to a priority of 1. So there's a chance, depending on the idleness of the dupes, that the dupe is going to get the errand to load up the incubator. Well, when they do, they're going to be grabbing an egg. And so for a split second, if there's too many Pokeshells in this room, they will get clawed up. Now, if Clay would add a button that said allow manual use to the incubator, we could sort of prevent that issue. There's a couple of other things that we could do as well. For instance, I could block the duplicants from coming in this room and then put in a sort of door system that counts how many Pokeshells are in here, and then it would drop the appropriate number of Pokeshells. There's a few little things that we could do, but quite frankly, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, for the simple reason that we have a lovely triage center that if a duplicant does get hurt, they're taken care of. Because as you guessed it, duplicant safety is priority #1. But in the interest of making the duplicants' lives a little bit easier, I still want to set up some nice shipping in here with our absolute ridiculous amount of refined metals. And that way we can auto ship not only the eggshells, but all the Pokeshell molts over to our open air industrial sauna. I'm doing okay on ores, and when we strip mine the second planetoid, we'll get even more, but we have 140 tons of cobalt ore and 88 tons of gold amalgam, so we're doing okay. Let me make this ridiculously long run. We put some bridges so we can get through the junction of a lot of different conveyor rails that we have going through the center of the base, and then we'll drop them right by the rock crusher. What this also means is we now have an independent eggshell and Pokeshell molt run. So I can add conveyor rails and conveyor loaders in a few different places around the colony. For instance, our kitchen where we get a lot of eggshells, and tie it in. And now even the plug slugs whose meat and eggshell end up at that kitchen, and all of our pip egg eggshells will all end up in the industrial sauna without the use of duplicate labor. And this is a lot of what I've been doing in the past 500-600 cycles, is providing a lot of automation to the colony. Because as many of you know, my ultimate goal for this colony is complete automation so that I can see cycle 5,000. I don't know what it is about big round numbers, I mean, what makes Cycle 5000 more important than Cycle 5001? Either way, I want to see them. And no, I don't like the poke shells very much, so they don't get a critter condo. But you can bet our pips do. Speaking of automation, some of you with keen eyes may have noticed our Meteor collection system. And I'm happy to report that so far it has worked flawlessly. It's a big project. And before I get into describing how this thing works, I want to give you a full disclaimer that there's 150 different ways to do this. This is just the way I chose. For one reason, it's awesome to have an army of Sweepies. And for the second, it provides a 100% area coverage for our planetoid, and it 100% automates the destruction of the meteors and the collection of those resources. To start off with, we're using robo-miners. The robo-miners can touch every part of the bunker tiles all the way down. None of them are overlapped, except for the two at the very ends. And this is because I have a lot more equipment down here, so I thought it was a good idea to increase the amount of coverage. And also because I didn't think of the far edges when I originally designed the system. Every single robo-miner, mechanized airlock, sweepy, auto sweeper, and the space scanner are all made out of steel. Not to mention all of the bunker tiles as well. And the bunker tiles are very, very important in this system. Because if you're using anything else other than bunker tiles, those meteors will come down and crack an insulated tile or even a metal tile. And as we described earlier in the playthrough, I have separated the bunker tiles from the insulated tiles, because it provides a gap to where the meteors will not damage the tile. If you have a bunker tile right above a regular tile, a meteor hitting that bunker tile will end up damaging your standard tile. This one tile gap prevents that. It also has the added benefit of 100% preventing any heat transfer from this bunker tile into the insulated tiles, because insulated tiles still do have a specific heat capacity and a thermal conductivity. It just takes them a very, very long time to transfer those thermals. Oh, and good news, our doors have opened. And what that means is that our space scanner system has detected that there are meteors coming. We have 2 space scanners, one on each side, to try to give myself as much scan network quality as possible, even though just one space scanner would work. And the only reason we have that automation is to open these doors. If we didn't open these doors, when the meteors come down, they would end up sitting on top of them, which isn't a big deal, but I didn't want a giant stack of slime or regolith sitting on all these doors. I want every last piece of material. Here's a great example here. Smash! Now we have some slime down here. Notice that the robo-miners are not going to be able to work right now, and our sweepies are a little bit stuck. Let me fast forward it to the end of this meteor shower, and I'll show you the rest of the way this works. And as soon as the meteor shower ended, the space scanner released the green signal, which shuts the doors, which allows the robo-miners to do their job, destroying all of the slime or whatever else fell, and then allows the sweepies to get to work. And then when the sweepies are done, they go to their home, they get cleaned, and they gain their power back. One limitation of the system is that the sweepies cannot pass each other. So as they're cleaning this area, sometimes it takes them a little while to figure out, hey, let's all make the run out to the center so we can all pick up the goodies, just like this wonderful team is doing right here. And then when the sweepies bring their stuff back to the sweepy dock, the auto sweeper grabs it, puts it inside the conveyor loader, where all the materials are sent on conveyor rail to the center of the base here, and then all the way down to where they're eventually dropped off in our storage tile. And you'll notice the slime has already been reduced to about 24 degrees. And that's due to the last feature of this system, and that is its cooling loop. We've tapped into this iron volcano cooling loop because, quite frankly, this thermal aqua tuner does not have to work very hard. As you can see in the last 5 cycles, it's only ran 17% of the time. But that cooling loop is responsible for keeping every robo-miner, sweepy, auto sweeper, and space scanner chilled and prevent it from overheating. And we're doing that using the conduction panels. Notice it's all insulated liquid pipes when it's going through the bunker tiles. I did that just to prevent any hot flashes, but to tell you the truth, it probably wasn't necessary, thanks to the nice chill being dropped off by the conduction panels. On the top part, I use regular liquid pipes just to save myself a little bit of material, but as you can see, even on the far end of this loop, the coolant is at 25 degrees. This liquid pipe thermosensor is set at 25 degrees. I also assisted the cooling loop by using a buffer tank. It's about half full, and that way it averages out these temps nice and evenly. And here we are just about a cycle later, and you'll notice that the bunker tiles are almost completely clean. We only have another 8 pieces of debris to go, thanks to our wonderful Sweepy army. So this is future Echo, about 52 cycles after I hit stop recording on the episode that you're now watching. It's all weird multiversal stuff, don't worry about it. But I wanted to show you that some meteors hit a little bit harder than others. So I'm working on a modified solution. My plan now is to have bunker doors above these mechanized airlocks. And that way the meteors will hit the bunker doors will then open after the meteor shower is done, and all of the meteor debris will sort of fall nice and gently and stop breaking poor Sweepy's habitat. It's going to take about 15 to 20 tons worth of steel, but I'll tie it in with the same automation system to ensure that the bunker doors are shut by the time the meteors impact, and then we'll delay it a little bit, allow all the debris to sort of fall past, and then we'll close these doors again. All right, here's the Meteor Automated Collection and Protection System V2, although I do have a lot more testing I want to do over the next few hundred cycles. Unsurprisingly, the bunker doors are going to remain open until the space scanner discovers any meteors. Once it does, the space scanner emits a green signal, which then gets flipped into red, which shuts the bunker doors. These are unpowered bunker doors for now. I'll see how the timing is and how many space scanners I would need to make sure we have enough scan network quality to ensure that the bunker doors shut in time, which is some of the testing I want to do. Simultaneously, when that happens, its green signal will open all of these mechanized airlocks. And that's important because when these bunker doors do finally open back again after the meteor shower, we need all of that fluff to be able to pass right by the mechanized airlocks and the robominers so that the robominers can eventually do their work. Hence the reason we have some buffer gates. Now, if memory serves me correctly, the most a meteor shower can last is 400 seconds. So I have 3 buffer gates here. These first 2 are set at 200 seconds, and this third one is set at 30 seconds. Which means after the all clear and the space scanner turns back red, these buffer gates will still continue to send a green signal for 430 seconds, keeping these doors open. Even further along the timeline, I ended up having to put robominers on top of the doors as well. And the reason why is because when the meteors were crashing down on the bunker doors when they were closed, and then the bunker doors would end up opening, well, the solid tiles would just sit there. Now, this is not the case with the regolith meteors because the regolith acts like sand and sand falls, but the slime ends up forming those solid tiles that need to be mined out. So as it stands, the current system looks like this. Will it stay this way? Or am I going to have to make more revisions? Put your guesses in the comments below. Alright, now back to our regularly scheduled timeline. The last thing I've been working on is Decor, starting with wallpapering the entire colony. Now, we still have a lot of work to do, but the decor is starting to look really, really nice around here. Now, I self-admittingly am not a great artist, but for what it's worth, I've put little clusters of paintings here and there. We even have some nice point of interest props here, and just generally making the area nicer to look at and nicer for our duplicants to live in. Now, I said started to wallpaper the entire colony because, well, we ran out of granite. And you might wonder, what's the big deal with granite? Well, a granite wallpaper tile provides a decor of plus 12, thanks to the 20% bonus of granite. The only other material that is comparable on the decor front is ceramic. And no, we're not going to put ceramic wallpaper throughout our colony. It would just be entirely too expensive. But don't worry, I know where there's more granite. And that is on our second planetoid. We have a duplicant here, somewhere, there they are, who is slowly getting rid of every last piece of material on the planetoid. I'm gutting this entire thing. It's going to take me a while, and it's going to be sort of micro-intensive, but the end state is I'm going to collect every bit of material on the planetoid and send it back to our home planetoid. I'm also going to be revamping our battery chilling system. While it's still very cold on this planetoid, again, we're going for 100% automation, so I need to make sure these batteries are protected. So what we're going to do is I'm going to build a box, put the batteries in it, and then instead of sending all the polluted water directly home, I'm going to loop it past the batteries to make sure they stay nice and chill. That is going to take me a very long time. Hence the reason why the next update I do in this series will probably be around cycle 2000. Now, Gave Up is not living too bad. They do have a barracks and a great hall here. I had to specifically send an artist over here just to be able to put in a statue so I can get the great hall bonus. And I also skill scrubbed Gave Up and gave him the bare minimum of skills we would need to accomplish this mission. Now right now they're eating nothing but swamp chard heart, but there's 22,000 calories worth of meat from some of the wild critters who have expired, also sitting on the colony, so we've got a little bit of time. I'm also thinking about sending another duplicate over here to make this job a little bit easier. Just need to get rid of this big brain jar that I have not even inspected. Look at that, it's more data banks for us. Some other things I still want to do on our home colony as well. First, I need to do something with all these paku. We have plenty of seeds and everything, except the only problem is I don't need the food. We're already creating way too much food as is, and I keep backing off our fried mushrooms, but thanks to all the barbecue provided by the plug slugs, the pips, the drecos, and even all of our wild puffs around the colony, our duplicants are fairly well fed. They occasionally get some nice surf and turf. With all that being said though, putting the duplicants on 100% surf and turf would be kind of nice, and I need to experiment more with the paku with the current changes. And it's not like I don't have plenty of fungal spore seeds to feed them. In fact, we have 1,079. And this reminds me of another update we've done to this colony, and that was I added a farm station in here, which of course means we needed fertilizer, so I put in our fertilizer synthesizer system that I've done a few times in the past. All the dirt comes in from the pips, it gets loaded in this conveyor receptacle. All the phosphorite comes in from the drecos and gets loaded into this conveyor receptacle. We add polluted water, which I seem to have an infinite supply of, thanks to our petroleum generator and our natural gas generators. Of course, now that we've put the plug slugs on and we have all those metal volcanoes, despite the fact that these natural gas generators are our, quote, primary power supply in the colony, they've ran 11% in the last 5 cycles. And what's even better about our fertilizer system is the fact that it generates more natural gas for us to use not only in our gas oven, but also our natural gas generators. Speaking of this industrial sauna area, our cooling loop is doing great. We keep it around 25 degrees, although if you remember, when our polluted water vent is dormant, we take water from our tank here. And so while right now it's 22 degrees on its ingest, it can be as low as -10. But that brings me to another update we've done around the colony, and that was getting rid of the ethanol distiller and adding a wonderful steam turbine with thermal aqua tuner system. This system here is responsible for keeping this entire tank nice and chill. So it doesn't matter how much steel I create, how much metal I create, all that hot coolant that gets sent back to this tank just gets re-chilled. Now I promised you a cycle 1200 update, and I've got about 24 more cycles to go. So I'm going to see how much work we can do with old Gave Up in the next 24 cycles, and then give you an update there. In fact, why don't we send freshly skill scrubbed Nazgul to go over and help them as well? After all, 2 dupes are better than 1, right? Here's our before picture, and here's the after. Cycle 1200, although I'm probably going to be playing for a few hundred more cycles today. I hope you enjoyed this visit back to our Chaos Crusade, and have found the progress interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the comments below about not only what you thought of the progress, but also what else you'd like to see. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.